Welcome to the Quarter Life Lessons podcast,
a show on the relatable lessons learned on the journey to and through adulthood. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm CharLea. Let's get started.
We're recording in January, and I'm not a resolutioner. I used to be, and then I fail every time. But what I have done over the last few years that I've found to be extraordinarily helpful for me is I choose a word. I choose a word to focus on. And a few years ago, my word was kind because I was not being kind to myself, and I needed to focus on being kind to myself. And this year, my word is courage because I hear a lot of folks, especially women, talk about confidence. And confidence is such an illusion. It is such an illusion. And continued courage builds confidence. I appear confident all the time, but I'm like shaking in my knees, my heart rate, my watch is telling me, do you need to take a breath? And I really just, for me, courage, making the decision to run for city council, it, it it's a brave, courageous decision. So for me, I just really want to like foot stomp courage over confidence. Courage builds confidence, and to have the courage to be authentic, to have the courage to be in touch with yourself, to have the courage to not conform. Yeah, I just really want to foot stomp courage. I just wanted to share that.
That's amazing. And Thrivers, if you've been following along, there has been recently posted episodes of me and Stephanie's new years, words of the years and phrases of the years. So feel free to track back and watch those. But Kimberly, as you state that your word being courage, how does that tie into your everyday activity in the community? I ask this because finding that sense of belonging that comes from working in the community or, putting yourself in these rooms that we're speaking about, it's very intimidating oftentimes, especially when you've never been in those rooms before. Again, you don't have that continuous experience and confidence that you're talking about. So how does courage show up when you are participating in these rooms and community?
Sure. I want to share a specific experience. I was in a room last year, and I was probably one of the youngest people by about 20 years, right? Maybe let's say 10. Let's say 10 to be on the safe side. And I was visibly the only person of color. I was for sure, even though I don't know any of their pockets, I'm sure I was the poorest person in the room and or had the least amount of wealth in the room. And I also was probably the only military spouse in the room. I'm looking around the room and I'm like, whew, these are some heavy hitters, people who got their lives together. I'm trying to be these people when I grow up. And I started to feel my confidence and courage shrinking, and I started to feel myself leaning into imposter syndrome. Like, why am I here? And in that moment, I acknowledged that I felt this way. And I actually text my most inner closest circle, and I said, y'all, I'm having imposter syndrome and this is what's going on. And in that moment when my brain couldn't tell me that I belonged in that room, I had a support system that told me that I belonged in that room. And that was what my brain needed. It was the reminder, like, you know what, Kimberly, you show up, and you show up authentically, and you share your experiences, your background, and that is what you bring to the table. If they wanted another wealthy person to be in the room, another person of this background, of this age range to be in the room, they would have called another person like that to be in the room. But they called me to be in the room. So I need to accept that's where I'm at. And if what I had to say wasn't received, then that's okay, because not everybody is your person and not everybody is your assignment. And sometimes, as part of your assignment and part of being courageous and being authentic with who you are, it is making other people uncomfortable with who they are, because that helps them grow. You're not just denying yourself, you're denying other people the opportunity to grow. And that's something I have to remind myself of, to lean into who I am courageously and authentically.
Oh my gosh, how powerful. That's amazing. I was just asking a friend yesterday, when you grow your consciousness, but you still choose to stay showing up the same way, what does that mean? What's all the new consciousness and awareness about if you don't choose to show up differently? And as you were talking, Kimberly, I was reminded that it's the courage that makes you choose to show up differently. Because once the unconscious or the unknown is known, the only thing that makes you want to perform or show up differently is self-love. As much as you love yourself is the degree to which you can love and support other people. So that's wonderful.
That was bars, Stephanie.
I've been seeing so much, maybe it's through confirmation bias, just but I've been on this journey and reread quotes or re-seen movies or song lyrics that mean something completely new to me now that I have this awareness. And I just wanted to ask Kimberly, how do you take the most healed version of you? And is it intentional to bring that most healed version of you to your life? Being the most authentic version of yourself in these new spaces that you're headed.
Yeah, I think that as people culturally, for whatever reason, we expect people to be very polished, right? And we want the best versions of ourselves out there. But that's just not, like, I think that we should absolutely be growing to be better versions of ourselves, best versions of ourselves. We probably need to figure out the language on that. But the truth is, some days are just crappy, and some days your inner dialogue is great, and some days it's terrible. And on those days where it's terrible, or good for that matter, I think you just need to be courageous and share that. I had a meeting one day, and I remember I had to lead the meeting, and I said, guys, I just need to let you know, these are the barriers I'm coming in with this morning, because it's just been rough, right? And it allowed space for people to share some things that, and it doesn't even have to be like huge things. Like, you can spill coffee on your blouse, get in the car, and you're like, oh, I need gas. And then get to the gas station, you're like, oh, where's my credit card? And these are like minor things, but it's just the death of 1,000 cuts. And by the time you got to the meeting, you're like frazzled, you're all over the place, you're 5 minutes late, and you're like, oh, can I just hit reset? And you can hit reset by acknowledging and letting people know this is what you're coming into the situation with, right? And even if you don't feel that comfort to do that, you can hit reset by saying, you know what? Let me close my eyes for 60 seconds in a safe place while you're not driving, and take a few long, deep breaths. Listen to something that hypes you up. Whatever it is that recharges and re-energizes you, you can hit that reset. But I think you have to be intentional in saying to yourself and to others, this is what's going on. And so that you can get over to, I love what you said, on the other side of fear, so you can get to that next thing. We talk a lot about community, and I get applauded a lot for my community work. And yes, I do a lot. I do a lot of volunteerism. It makes me very happy. It makes my heart happy. And then people are like, well, I'm inspired and motivated to get involved with the community. The best thing you can do for your community is to be a better version of yourself, to be a healing version of yourself. Because when you do that and you tap into you and what's actually meant for you and how you're designed, then and only then can you truly plug into the places that you need to serve, that are your assignment. And so I'm like, please, you guys, don't run off and try and be like, I want to volunteer for this and I want to do that and I want to do this. No, 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 no. Like, go to therapy, have some long, great, deep conversations with trusted friends. Like, tap into yourself, tap into you as your community, your universe, your ecosystem, and then you can give back to different communities by being the most courageous and authentic version of yourself.
Oh man, that's so great, Kimberly. Thanks so much for sharing that. I could not agree more from the seat I am in today, having done a lot of that work myself. And honestly, Thrivers, I was completely unaware. When Kimberly just said, don't, obviously everyone's journey is the same and no one is shaming anyone, with this content. But in my experience, I, for a long time, was showing up in places to be valued and to earn love and to earn my seat, if that makes sense. And I don't regret showing up in those places, but I think I could have done a better job if I had known myself a little bit more and if I had been there for the right reasons, right? So I don't regret all the networking I've done, all the professional development I've done, all the education. It's all part of my journey and I'm so thankful for it. But I completely agree with what Kimberly's saying. Do yourself a favor and know yourself and do the work, whether it's individual work or therapy work, to get to know yourself and understand your assignment, because I think once you do, it's richer. The experiences are richer. The impact you'll have is richer. The value you bring will be authentic.
As always, the conversation does not end here.
We want to know your thoughts on these topics. Join us on Instagram at Quarter Life Lessons Pod to share your perspectives and continue the conversation to thrive.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quarter Life Lessons podcast. Find new episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and our Buzzsprout website.